Well, good afternoon. It's actually afternoon here now too, and afternoon where you are a couple of hours later. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
As I mentioned before we got started, I love the sunglasses. You always seem to have great ones, but this may be my favorite so far.
Really? Oh, well, I think these were a gift from someone who just said, you have a Janis Joplin voice, you need Janis Joplin sunglasses. So here I am with my Janis Joplin glasses.
Well, I appreciate that. Now we're breaking up for people who are watching this. Can you still hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, your video's freezing. It'll be fine. So we'll just play it by ear, if that sounds fair.
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay. Well, I have a kind of a set of questions that I tweak each time, and of course, with music, it's all the more interesting. So the first question is, how would you describe yourself in 1 minute? How would you describe yourself in 1 minute?
Grassroots country girl who learned how to get what she wanted by working hard and paying the dues.
And I think that's fair. So for people to understand, if they're wondering why there's, oh, we appear to have lost her. Are you still there?
I'm here.
Oh, okay.
This might be difficult just because we're in transit, so.
No worries. You've gotten clear. It's turned off your video, which is fine, although it's got a picture of you with great lipstick on. So.
In half a mile, use the left lane to stay on I-290.
Nice. I think that lipstick is called Adoring Love. Yes. There you are.
So what I was going to say to people so they understand, right now you're driving through Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, we're in Massachusetts and then getting ready to cross into New Hampshire. So we left Connecticut a couple hours ago,
well,
driving straight north.
Welcome ahead of time to my home state of New Hampshire. I wish I was in Laconia.
Oh, yeah, it's so great. It's beautiful.
It is. I mean, all the states up there are beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm prejudiced because I grew up there.
Of course.
Are you from South Dakota?
I am, yep. Born and raised in South Dakota.
Beautiful state, too.
It is, but in the wintertime it gets a little old, as I'm sure you dealt with here.
Yes, although I do think when you get to the Midwest, it's a little more severe. So I'll give you points on that end.
Yeah, at least it's just, I mean, here you're prepared, you're going to stay there for a while. Nobody, you kind of hunker down. The plains of South Dakota, that wind just kills you.
I'll say I used to work for tickets.com, and I had an employee in Minneapolis, and I remember one morning saying to her, it's -7 here, right? That because it was a cold morning in New Hampshire, and she responded, it's -25 here. So
yeah,
that game.
Yeah.
You had mentioned in your introduction, basically that you worked hard to reach where you are. When and how did you first get into the music business?
Well, I mean, my brothers and I had a band starting from when I was about 6 years old, and we played little municipal bars around rural South Dakota most of my life. I mean, I don't know if you can consider that as a professional, but I always felt like if you were making money doing it, you were considered a professional. My brothers liked it more as a hobby, but I always knew that I was going to continue that full time. I started playing guitar at age 4, and I just knew it. I just wanted to do it. So I worked really hard always to try to prepare myself for what was out there. Oh, look, you have a guest.
Yes. See, now people will see. So he did what I warned the last interview I did something might happen. He jumped from the chair up on my back, and you noticed I did not scream. Whether I wanted
not this time.
To scream.
I love it.
That is Opal, our youngest kitty cat.
That is interesting because the little town that I grew up in It's a rural farming community, and the name of that community is Opal. So
Okay.
I feel like we know each other.
She's been
So Opalsdale.
she's been a joy, but she's only doing it probably on average about once a week. I remember this one day she did it 5 times, and she was getting to learn how to do it.
Oh
And
yeah.
basically, she latches on the back and climbs up.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's it.
Ouch.
Yeah. By the way, I'm with you. Technically, if you get paid for it, especially if you get paid for it more than once, you're a professional, right?
Yeah.
And so 4 years. So you started at 4 years old. You said start playing the guitar.
Started playing guitar at 4. Yep, and then started in the band at 6. But I was playing keyboards in the band, so I didn't have any formal training. My brother taught me how to keep time and basic chords, and that's what I did for the first several years.
So maybe we won't go back to when you were 4, but let's say when you started doing it, at what age would you say you started doing it kind of where you chose it as a vocation? In your teens? At what point did it become something where this was for you, your job?
I think I finally let go of the whole it's an okay hobby, but it can't be your job stigma that my dad put into my head. Probably around age 17, because I as soon as I graduated high school, and I graduated at 17, I joined a mountain music show. It was a hillbilly bluegrass music show,
Okay.
and we performed 7 nights a week. And I played guitar one night, I played bass one night, and I sang every night. And it was just like a family show. And I loved it, and I thought that that was something that I could do for the rest of my life and be very happy performing. So I pretty much decided at age 17 that this was something I wanted to do always professionally. But I also wanted to get a career. So I was going into college,
Yep.
and I was studying sports medicine and planning on going into physical therapy. And I never did end up getting that degree because in college I met up with a guy, same old story, and it didn't turn out great. He was abusive, and I couldn't get protection on the campus because it was a private school. They would not offer protection. And so I had to leave school, and I never went back. And that was the beginning of this full-time, was the collapse of college.
Well, interestingly enough, let me get back to, so my older son is a euphonium player. And
Oh, okay.
go for it. He had his undergraduate degree and his master's degree in it. And when he was working on his undergraduate, he had the opportunity to work with, I forget the guy's name, but one of the best euphonists in the world.
Cool.
And my son was doing the dual degree so that he would have the teaching and the backup. And this professional said to him, you shouldn't do that. If you really want to be a professional euphonium player, give up the extra stuff. So kind of in line of what I guess
Yeah.
expects put on you, that advice, that kind of not being embarrassed and going forward with it, that's the professional advice he got from somebody who was a master with it.
Yeah.
So
Good for him. That's actually, I always tell people you can't have a plan B when you're doing this, because if you do, you're going to use it, because it's too easy to check out.
yeah.
You got to make it so that you've only got one direction, and that's straightforward with it.
And the fact is if you're actually somebody who does well, you will do well with plan B, and you'll be offered promotions. And
Oh, yeah.
so.
Yeah, you can always pick that later.
So if you look at it when you were 17 and kind of your early experiences with the music business, what would you say are the biggest differences between then and now that you're 19? But between then and now, what are the biggest differences in the music industry?
Social media. There's just way more ways to promote your band or your music than there ever was when I was growing up. Where I grew up, like the way that it was old school, get out there and tour, have your mailing lists over by your merch table so people could sign up, stay in touch with people, and that's how you gained your fan base. Nowadays, you can put up a video and it'll go viral, and you've got tons of followers without ever leaving your bedroom. So that's by far the greatest thing that has come along, and how much it's changed.
Well, it's interesting because that one of the next question I had was how has technology changed it? And obviously that's part of it. And then
Yep.
I follow up with, is it for the better? So how has technology changed things? I think that's part of the answer. And is it for the better? Do you think it's for the better?
I think it's better for the artist because you don't have to work as hard or spend as much money to get out there. All you need to do is just have talent, and put it out there. I think, though, it doesn't separate what I'm going to call the men from the boys. Because if you really, really, truly want to do this professionally,
Yep.
it takes a great deal of dedication. And you learn that while you're out on the road just busting your ass and failing and getting up and trying again and failing. And you get real focused and you're real dedicated to your craft. Nothing's going to deter you from your end goal because you've worked so hard to get there, and you're
Yep.
so much more appreciative when you get there. I think that it's really too easy for people to gain success right now, and they don't appreciate it. They don't appreciate the fans that support them as much like they should. Because unless you've gotten out there on the road and you've beat the pavement to death and had accidents or injuries or illnesses or whatever that you had to push through to get to finish the job, you don't understand like how much those people help you, what their energy means to you, how much that propels your willingness to keep driving on. So I think that gets lost in the mix a little bit. So I think in some ways it's way better for the artist, and in some ways I think that you're taking your success for granted because you didn't have to work hard enough to get it.
And you're in many respects cut off from the fans, other than quick, YouTube, great job type messages.
Yeah, it's that instant gratification, but it's like kind of empty, If you sit with somebody one-on-one and you talk to them and you hear the story about how your song affected their lives, or like how they were ready to give up and your song brought them out of the darkest point of their life, I mean, that's powerful stuff. And reading it on a text message or a comment on YouTube is never going to be the same as watching their face just like in agony telling you the story face to face. You're never going to feel that online.
It's interesting. It may not seem like it, but the next question, which is kind of the intersection between kind of technology, some of the things that are happening in software development, and now kind of touches on it because it has to do with feedback too. One of the reasons for what I'm about to say. So a big push in software development is, instead of doing big releases like Microsoft once a year coming out with a new version of Word, it's doing a lot of many frequent small releases instead of those big ones. Do you see the equivalent in your world versus, let's say, a big?
Absolutely.
Okay, can you talk a bit about that?
Well, people are, they have attention spans like mosquitoes. So you work for years and years to put a product out. And finally, this last album, for instance, took me 2 years. You finish it. 2 years later, you launch it. You're so excited. People get it. And a week later, they're on to something else. And your 2 years of work is like 7 days of excitement, and then it's gone. So people are, most artists are starting to, instead of be about the album, they're about the single. So you go in and record one song, you put it out there, you get a week of excitement, but it only took you a couple of days of recording. So it's a more equal amount of time and effort going into it as what you get out of it, versus 2 years on an album and you release it for a couple weeks of people pumping it up and being excited
That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, this last album's probably a full-length record I do. So I think not just, release singles or EPs or something. It takes quite a bit less time and quite a bit less.
It makes sense.
So we can try a lot.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think it's interesting because one of the benefits to the smaller releases is that instant feedback, right? You, instead of waiting 2 years and then finding out people like it, instant feedback. Also, there's a concept of failing small. So for instance, if you come out with a single and people are like, man, I don't like what you've changed, right? You find out it's the whole album. And so it's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
I figured you'd talk about just the benefits, but I hadn't thought about the fact that it actually encourages that short attention span. The fact that people, used to be like too. I'd pull out my album and I'd read through all the liner notes and I'd listen to the album over and over again in order.
Oh, yeah.
Planned on it, but now no.
Yep.
Stick it up on Spotify, hit shuffle, on to the next thing, right?
Yep, exactly. And I mean, that's another interesting point is that you hit shuffle. I mean, there is an art form to track listings.
Yep.
There's a reason the track listings are the way they are, but nobody listens to it that way because that would require a longer attention span. And you're just not going to get it.
Or we're rebellious. We're going to listen to the way we want to, not the way you want to.
Exactly.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about Seven a little bit. If you were going to describe, so you're like you said, the collection of song, the order of song. How would you describe Seven? What is the story behind? How would you describe it? I'll just leave it at that.
I planned on this being my last full-length record, so to me it was like the on the 8th day you rest. This is my masterpiece this is the greatest thing I've done. I put a lot more time, a lot more money, a lot more effort into this album than I did any of the others. I incorporated newer elements, electronics, programming, things that I didn't do on any of the previous records, to be a little bit more inclusive and a little more modern. Because we've always been so, I wouldn't call us necessarily purist, but it's always just been raw and very simple. But we added a lot of complicated things to it. The songs are really well written and super catchy, super hooky. You're going to be able to sing along with them immediately. I think that as far as the lyric content goes in this album, I was confused at first on which direction to go. I wanted to get really deep and heavy into the world problems and whatnot. But then I thought about it. I was like, I really want this album to be an escape from that because we're dealing with that on a daily basis at this point. News and just, even the people that you talk to, politics, it's never, I don't remember it being as tumultuous as it kind of is right now. You're scared to even tell people what you think or your opinions on anything because they waste no time in just jumping down your throat. So it's like you're not even really entitled to an opinion unless you're willing to accept the wrath that will be released upon you. So I just decided to kind of take this and be a little bit more just welcoming or like a break from all of that, a little escape from reality, but still including the elements of of what? I was talking to you. Still including what you're dealing with in life, but in a more fun way.
There's definitely one song on it, at least based on the video, that does not avoid, difficult situation.
Yeah.
You just released it last week. You premiered the Be Brave video.
Yes.
What's the story behind that song?
The song is basically about, I wrote it with the person that it's inspired by, really, my co-writer, Paige Logan. And this is somebody, when I met her, she was like my pillar of strength. I felt like she was the strongest, most confident woman I'd ever met in my life. And I kind of looked up to her as like somebody that I aspired to be more like. And then I watched her life kind of take a very different turn. And I watched her get very vulnerable and go through quite a lot of different life-changing experiences that would have, any other person, I don't know if they would have walked through it like she did. But because she's so strong and confident, she walked through the fire and came out the other side. And this was a series of events. It wasn't just one thing. It was, illness, and then, marriage and financials and like anything that can go wrong in life. Like she had to deal with it all at the same time. And it would have crushed probably anybody, but she walked right out of it and was stronger because of it. And I asked her, how she was able to just do that. And she said, you just have to be brave. You just have to do it. And I'm like, you're right. There's no way around it. You can't avoid like the ultimate truth. You have to go through it. You have to do it. And the sooner you do it, the sooner you come out the other side.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't avoid it away, right?
No. It'll find you no matter where you are.
And that song does seem to be having effect. I don't know for sure, but there's somebody who follows me on Twitter. And as you know, I've retweeted the video and stuff. And the next thing I know, she's sending you a note telling you about how much you love the song and how it caused her to be brave that day. And that's what I say to people. Jasmine, you do a great job of interacting with your fans on Twitter. You also post obviously on Facebook. I'm sure you have an Instagram. I have never really gotten into that. But you do a great job of interacting, and the song inspired her, but I suspect also your validation, your support also helped.
Yeah.
And I know she's going through a lot.
I
know she's a lot.
People are going through all kinds of stuff. Like you can't ever take into consider, like when people say things to you, and sometimes it might seem like they're being short or unkind or whatever. You have no idea what those people are going through. I mean, I meet people all day long that are fighting cancer and just doing their damnedest to get up every day. I mean, those are tough people, and they're not just like faking it, like just sitting around hoping that it goes away. Like they get up every day and still try to live life despite what this fight that they're going through for their own lives. They still want to live life every day. So they're coming to the concerts, even though they don't feel well. They're probably going to go get sick, somewhere in the middle of it. Like they're going out and doing it. I mean, they're embracing it completely and just going forward, just walking through it. And if I can do anything to make somebody on a weekday feel like they should get up and go forward, I'm happy to do that. I think that's the least I can do. And I think that's the power of music and the reason that we write these songs and that we record these songs. This is the power of music.
Agreed. The other thing I think people have to remember is even if their difficult situations are self-caused, it doesn't change the fact that they're feeling pain, right? So
no.
There may be times of tough love where you don't basically bail them out of a situation they need to learn from. But that doesn't mean you can't empathize. And a lot of our pain is self-inflicted. You know what? We all screw up, right? So can't we?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's a great song. It's a neat video too. So I recommend people when they see this, go look up "Be Brave" on. It'll come up. And what I think will be very interesting for people is when you had mentioned in school that you had gone through a difficult situation that caused you to leave college. I didn't know if that was going to be it. The song will have different meaning to different people.
Absolutely.
People, it'll be a Me Too moment. With other people, it'll be, financial or a health moment. You know what I mean? So
the beauty of this is that I put the song out about a month before the video just launched, and the people started telling me their story, and I realized instantly that like the video I just released pales in comparison to their real life stories, of which I intend to tell. So the next video, we are going to do a second video for this song, and it's just going to be composed of their stories. we're just gonna let them tell them. So, because I think that's way more than what I can come up with.
I think it's a great idea. I think Disturbed has even done something like that, where they released a second version of a video where they connected it with real people's real experiences. So
I hadn't thought about it until someone brought it up, and they were, they started telling me their story, start to finish, and I was like, oh my goodness. They said, yeah, I had to tell you this story because this is what I thought of when I heard the song. And no sooner than I heard that one, I get another message and another message and another message, and I thought, man, this is bigger than I expected. Like, I didn't expect that kind of response. So obviously touched a nerve there, which is great. That's exactly what you want. You want these songs to resonate. And I'm going to include their stories in this song as well, because that's what it's meant for.
it's a great idea. I'm glad you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Which leads kind of to the next one. What is the most inspiring reaction you've had so far to 7? What's the most inspiring reaction?
It's absolutely 100% because of that song. And I wish I could show you all the stories. I have an email address that I had everyone send video, just them telling the story, their stories. I wish I could share them all with you, like one-on-one right now, but you'll see them in this video. There's just so many, I can't pick one.
I appreciate that, and I look forward to it. And I think it's something where, as a fan base, we can be there for each other, right? So when we hear,
It's what we're doing.
yeah. How about any surprising reactions? Any reactions you wouldn't have expected that have come out of releasing 7?
I wasn't sure how my old school fans would embrace this because of the programming and the more pop sensibilities of this record. But my surprise is that they love it. I thought I was gonna get some complaints about, like, oh man, this isn't like the raw guitar driven, whatever stuff that you wrote before, but they said the only odd comments that I've gotten was, I had to listen to it a couple times through just because it was so different from anything you've done before. But they loved it. And I think I was surprised in a positive way.
Well, those are the best kind of surprises, right?
Yeah, because I'm always my worst critic. So I'm always preparing myself for, like, the worst,
I think I may have read that, Van Halen, of course, did that with 1984. Not that they hadn't played a little bit before them, but they did with 1984. And I thought I just read that 1984 was their biggest album.
I think it was.
It gives you an idea of, and trust me, if you listen to their first 2, you'd be like, why? Why would you change it? What's he doing on keyboard?
Yeah, it's not broken. Don't fix it. But yeah, you got to take chances, man.
Yeah.
We can't tell the same story over and over.
Here we go. We've got 3 more questions. They'll be quick and I'll let you enjoy. See, I hope I didn't prevent you from getting a soda or something when you stopped for gas.
No. Kevin got gas. There's Kevin.
Please say hi to Kevin for me.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin. Alan says hello. He can't hear you because I have headphones on, but here's the rest of the band. There's Jordan.
Hey.
How's it going?
There's PK. Yeah, we're all just cruising down the road.
If I can't see PK, it's pumping, admit it.
Oh my goodness. I've never seen anybody 6'7". I've never known anybody so giant that can get so small. He can crouch down in that seat and you don't even know he's there.
My oldest live brother's 6'8". I'm 6'4". So
wow.
I'm not used to looking up. I would have to look up at PK.
Yeah, for sure. Jordan's like, 6'2". So I'm just like the girl between the twin towers over here now.
Well, you do appear to be a little shorter than them, although I know you try to compensate with high heels sometimes.
I can't hardly wear them anymore because I fall down now. Too dangerous.
I think it's okay if you're a bit smaller than they are. Okay.
I'm okay with it.
2019, we're about halfway through, not quite. If only recommend one other 2019 release from another band to listen to, what would it be?
Okay, hold on a second.
Sure.
I've got weird intermittent signal. I'm getting partial You kind of froze.
Okay. Any better?
Okay. Yep, better now. Go.
Okay. If you could only recommend one, and let's behave, one
Okay.
their release from 2019 for people to listen to, what would it be and why?
One release, not including our record.
Yeah, I can't include yours because everybody just knows they ought to be listening to that. Another release.
Okay. That's a good question. One release. I like Shinedown's new record a lot. Attention, Attention. That's a really good record. There's a lot of great songs on there.
And
I would go.
A lot of people. It's like your album. It's helped out a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I'd probably lean that direction.
But it's funny because I realized I don't have any Caniac shirts and stuff. So
Yeah.
I was going to put my Shinedown shirt on, but it's in the wash.
Oh,
And my son, my 11-year-old son, loves Shinedown. We saw him last year. We can't watch them this because when they're in town in Denver, we're at Boy Scout camp. So otherwise, we.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. And they've been releasing. I think they first came out with it last year, but they've been that "Get Up" song. They actually have versions of it this year, a piano version and an acoustic.
I heard.
And so, I think you've made a great choice.
Yeah, I think that's a great record.
Okay, now we're going to do something because usually when I do this, it's about books. People have written books. Are there books? And this doesn't have to be this year. If you recommend only one book again, just one book for people to read, what would it be and why?
You know, the funny thing is I don't remember the last time that I've sat down and read a book. Because I just don't. First off, I can't read in the van because it makes me sick. So I don't read when we're traveling. And that's the only time I would have to read. But the real book reader of the band is PK.
Well, then ask him. Say, what book should what book? If he could recommend one book, what should it be?
Hey, PK, since you're the book reader in the band, if you could recommend one book in 2019 to read for people, what would it be?
Something that just came out?
Yeah.
Or just any book?
Any book or any book.
If you haven't read Fingerprints of the Gods by Graham Hancock, that is really good read.
Fingerprints of the. Can you hear him?
Yep, I can. Fingerprints of
the Gods. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, Fingerprints of the Gods. He also has a new book that came out called America Before.
Is this the guy you wanted to meet down in?
Yes, that I didn't buy the tickets. Oh. Yeah, that's good. He's one of the best-selling historical nonfiction writers of all time.
Awesome.
Okay. Well, there you go.
Pyramids and shit, man.
Ancient pyramids and shit, man. He said, we actually were down in Phoenix, and this is his favorite author of all time, and he wanted to go meet him. And he was at this bookstore. It was only like 15 minutes from where we were staying, and we were off that day. But he didn't buy tickets to go, and we woke up the day of, and it was sold out. And I'm like, epic fail. So, but yeah, he's told me about this author, and he's so excited when he talks about it that it's probably something I will seek out as well.
Well, you can do. I mean, for you, my wife gets car sick too reading, so she can't.
Yeah. We listen to podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. Audiobooks, podcasts.
Yeah. Yeah. But see, both Kevin and PK are history fanatics. So when we're listening to podcasts in the van, it's usually that Dan Carlin, is that his name? And he does podcasts on like all the wars from like multiple different sides of it and what these people were thinking when they did this and why they did this. And it's really cool. It gets into the like psychology and the strategy of it. It's pretty interesting.
That sounds good. I'm a nonfiction reader. I don't actually listen to So for me, the problem is, you talked about the short attention span. It's less that than it goes too slow. I'm not willing to wait, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
somebody says in 15 minutes I can read, say in 5. So I generally read books, but I'm a nonfiction mainly reader. So I'll have to check out the
Yep.
God. Okay, final question. We're at the end.
Okay.
You can go enjoy and rest or whatever. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with folks? Open question.
Any what?
Any final thoughts you'd like to share with those who see this video afterward?
I mean, I always just kind of tell people the same thing. It's just, you know, get up every day and do your best. Be kind to people. Do the best you can. Be the best you can be. The only thing limiting you is yourself. So go be somebody.
Great thought. Well, thank you very much. For everybody, she being Jasmine Cain and her band, who are all in the same place there, they did just come out with 7, a tremendous new release, great music. And I think it's right. I counted your 7th album, right?
Yep.
So I'm assuming that has something to do with it. It could be something else. 7 is considered a complete number in some cultures and stuff.
Yep.
Great album.
Yep. There's many reasons. That's why.
And is it Patreon or Patreon? How do you say it?
I'd say it Patreon. I guess it could be.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up again, but I think it's Patreon too.
I got it, and I have a Christmas song.
That is true. So you're breaking up a bit, but thank you very much. And people should support.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I was going to say people should support you on Patreon. This is a way to allow artists like yourself to not be kind of at the women, whatever, of record companies and promoters and stuff. So I do on Patreon.
Exactly. This takes the middleman. Takes the middleman out. It puts me directly in touch with you, and I can completely cater to everyone the way that it should be without somebody in a suit telling me what they think you should hear. So we just tell me yourself, and then I'll provide that.
Agreed. Well, folks, I will put the Patreon link in this video when I put this up on the web. Jasmine, thank you, and to thank your whole band for us. Safe travels. I wish I was there in Laconia to hear.
We will. Thank you.
I hope you enjoy the lakes. Bye-bye.
Oh, yeah. It's going to, it rains every year up here. We love it. Thank you.
Not this year.